I Am Third. It is the title of the autobiography of the famous American football player Gail Sees. The gold medal, which was worn by him, was also inscribed by the same sentence. The reason behind this he explains in his autobiography. Every day, after the football coaching, Gail used to go to the room of his master Bill East. Whenever he enters the room of his master, the first thing that was noticed by him was the three words that was written on his master's table, that is, I am third. One day Gail asked his master, Master, what do you mean by these words? Then the reply of his master was very inspirable. It was the advice of his mother. In our life, the first place we must give to God, the second for others, and third only I am. That day onwards, Gail also started to practice the same sentence in his life, I am third. Dear friends, when we go through the history, we also see a man like Gail who gave in his life the first place for God, the second for others, and third only he gave for himself. It is none other than St. Sebastian, whose feast we celebrate on 20th January. St. Sebastian is undoubtedly one of the earliest martyrs venerated and honored by the Catholic Church. After St. Peter and St. Paul, St. Sebastian is the third patron of the Roman Church. St. Sebastian belonged to the class of military martyrs. He is the patron saint against the illness and plagues, and of the archers and alyas, and as well as of the dying soldiers and pontiff sea guards. Now let's discuss some of the lessons that we can learn from the life of St. Sebastian. Firstly, St. Sebastian is the captain in the army of God. It is believed that St. Sebastian was born in 256 in Narbonne in France to a wealthy Roman family. He was raised as a Christian in Milan, where his parents lived. It was a time when being a Christian was very dangerous. St. Sebastian was a fervent servant of Christ, and though his natural inclinations gave him an aversion to a military life, yet to be better able, without suspicion, to assist martyrs and confessors in their suffering, St. Sebastian went to Rome around the year 283 and joined in the Roman army. He served under the emperors of Diocletian and Maximin. Emperor Diocletian hated all Christians and ordered many to be tortured and killed. Emperor Diocletian did not know that St. Sebastian was a Christian. St. Sebastian secretly visited all the Christians who were imprisoned for their faith, bringing them comfort. As an officer in the Roman imperial army, St. Sebastian secretly done many acts of love and charity. His zeal and success in the service of the church brought him the name Captain in the Army of God. Dear friends, like St. Sebastian, as a Christian, it's our duty and obligation to help those who are persecuted in different parts of the world in the name of Christ. Even if we are not able to help them, it's our prime duty to pray for them. Secondly, the fame filled behind the prison walls. While serving as a Praetorian guard, Marcus and Marcellian, the twin brothers, were arrested for refusing to make public sacrifices to the Roman gods. These twin brothers were the deacons in the Christian church. They refused to make the public sacrifices to the Roman gods and they were arrested. They were visited by their father and mother, who persuaded them to renounce the Christianity. But St. Sebastian encouraged them to continue to remain in their faith, and he converted their parents too. Dear friends, there will be many occasions in our life which will cause us to renounce our faith. In such situations, we must have the strong courage to hold on our faith. We also must help others to remain and grow in their faith. Thirdly, St. Sebastian always stood for Christ. When his faith was ultimately discovered by Emperor Diocletian, he was ordered to be shot with arrows. When his sentence was carried out, however, he did not die. Then St. Sebastian returned back to the palace of the emperor and spoke against emperor. Then he was sentenced to be beaten to death. Finally, St. Sebastian died in the year 286. Dear friends, standing on the truth can bring us into trouble, but the life of St. Sebastian teaches us that in the midst of all our troubles and difficulties, even in the face of death, we must always stand for Christ. Fourthly, St. Sebastian perfectly followed the example of Christ. The last words of St. Sebastian is, Lord, receive my spirit, lay not this sin to their charge, which goes similar to the words of Jesus at the time of crucifixion. Lord, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing, which inspires us and invites us to pray for our enemies and love our enemies. Dear friends, the story of St. Sebastian is one of strength, courage, and dedication. Even though little is known about the life of St. Sebastian, the available information shows him to be a man devoted to God to the very end. So, as we celebrate the feast of St. Sebastian on 20th January, let's try to imitate his love and courage for Jesus Christ. He valued the fidelity to Christ higher than any worldly honor. So, let's ask the intercession of St. Sebastian to have the same fidelity and love in our time of trial. Amen.